G'day everyone and welcome back to my favourite room in the house. Very special video today, inspired by a special friend of mine, Wes, aka Joe Hunter 73. A little while ago, he actually did a video showing off a bunch of items that were up for auction in a heritage catalogue. They were items from G.I. Joe that were rare and items that most of us had never seen before, and it got me thinking, I have a bunch of stuff in my very own collection that you might not have seen before, so I'm going to show them off here today. And look, there's no better place to start than with this guy. This is, of course, Tiger Force Outback. Now, this dude is pretty rare in the States, but in the UK and Australia, he is more prevalent than you would think. See, Tiger Force Outback was a UK exclusive, and because of Australia's close relationship with the UK, we ended up with plenty of Tiger Force Outbacks in our neck of the woods as well. I actually picked this guy up from a lady who was selling her ex-husband's G.I. Joe collection, and I got him for an absolute steal. He is an amazing figure, and probably a figure that a lot of my United States friends haven't seen before. I am so blessed to have him and so blessed to have him on display in my collection. Next up, let's have a look at some file cards, and I have a file card here for Skidmark, who is of course the Desert Fox driver, but what makes this file card a little bit different is that the whole thing is written in Dutch. I don't think many of us would have seen a Dutch G.I. Joe file card before, but I have one in my collection, and this was a gift from one of my mates here in Australia. I don't know how he got his hands on it, but he thought it would be funny to send it to me when I bought some other bits and pieces from him, and I will certainly cherish it forever. The only words I can understand on here are Los Angeles, California. Everything else is a mystery to me, but there you are. There is a Skidmark file card in Dutch. So the other file card I wanted to show you actually came with this figure. This is, of course, Jinx. You'd all be familiar with Jinx. She came out in 1987. She is the female member of the Arashikage Ninja clan. I love this figure. She's got beautiful little ballet slippers there and painted fingernails. Fantastic figure Jinx is, and I actually picked her up in a lot of G.I. Joes a little while ago, and because I already had Jinx, I was looking to move her on, and she actually came with a file card. Here it is here, and looking at this file card, it looks like just an ordinary Jinx file card, and for that reason I was happy to find a new home for this file card with one of my friends. But before I did that, a good mate of mine was looking through my things and said, hey, don't sell this file card because this file card is a little bit special, and I will show you why by simply turning it around. As you can see, this file card is a red-backed file card, which is a mail-away file card. See, the story with Jinx is she was first offered in 1987 as, you know, a standard purchase from a toy shop, but then in the late 80s she was offered as a mail-away by Hasbro, and all mail-away file cards come with this red back. Now, you might not have seen one of these before, hence I've included it in this video. And as a little bit of a tip, if you ever come across a file card with a red back, it might be a little bit more rare than the standard file card because it is the mail away. How cool is that? Okay, let's look at some merchandise, shall we? And this next one is a Facebook Marketplace pickup. I spotted online and quickly jumped in the car and drove up into the Adelaide Hills to grab it because I thought it was just a fantastic piece. And it is a G.I. Joe drinking flask. Now, these were produced by Aladdin in 1987 under license from Hasbro. So you can see there, Aladdin Industries Incorporated from Nashville, Tennessee. Hello to everyone in Nashville, Tennessee. These were originally sold with an accompanying lunchbox, I believe, I don't have the lunchbox, but look, the flask is plenty enough for me. Now, the flask itself, I reckon, is quite faded because this is, well, almost 40 years old. So a lot of the reds and yellows have faded in the elements over the years. On the front here, you have, I reckon that's Gung Ho in his marine dress, maybe Flint or Falcon in the middle, and possibly Ace from the Sky Striker on the right-hand side here. You have the G.I. Joe Defiant rising out of the clouds on the opposite side, and maybe a Cobra Mamba helicopter there as well. So very, very cool. The cup on the top unscrews, so you've got a little drinking cup to drink your soup or your coffee or whatever you've put into this flask, and there's a spout which pops open and you can obviously pour into the cup. This one is in really good condition inside. It looks like it's rarely been used. Like, there is no sign of any mold or food scraps or anything like that. So I could probably use this if I wanted to for some drinks to this day, but I haven't done that because I consider this somewhat of a museum piece these days. But that is a really cool piece that you might not have seen before. That is an Aladdin drinking flask with G.I. Joe branding. The next item you would take to school with you, like you would the Aladdin flask, it is a G.I. Joe pencil case. There it is there. It's still sealed in its original baggie. I haven't been game enough to open it, but I found this guy, again, I reckon it was sort of Facebook Marketplace, and a gentleman was selling off some bits and pieces he had collected over the years, and I got this for a bargain. I reckon it was about $10 Australian, and it is just awesome. So it obviously features Falcon on the front there, the green beret with a nice vibrant G.I. Joe logo. Produced in 1987, this one, and I have seen similarly branded rubber erasers and pencils that were probably sold alongside this pencil case. This doesn't feel like it's got anything in it, and like I said, I haven't been game enough to open the baggie, but I'm actually, I'm besotted with this thing, and I display it proudly on top of my cabinets full of figures. That's a G.I. Joe pencil case. Chuck that over there. Now, any good G.I. Joe fan would be well aware of the comic book series that accompanied the figures and the cartoons in the 80s. But did you know that Australia had its very own G.I. Joe comic book series? It was a very short-lived run of comics, maybe only 4 issues or so. And I'm lucky enough to have issue 2 in my collection. Here it is here. This is the G.I. Joe Australia comic, produced by Cyclone Comics and featuring Digger, the Australian G.I. Joe, and Roadblock, facing death in the jungles of Brazil. This issue was brought out in March of 1989, and it features a cover that looks very similar to the G.I. Joe Special Missions issue 2, so you might want to look that one up after the video. Inside, the story is written by the great Larry Hama and backed by art of Herb Trimpe, but there's no colour. It's all in newsprint, which is pretty interesting. Maybe Australia was a few years behind our American friends. In the back here is a section for letters to the editor, and it got me wondering, does this address still exist? It's 104 Oberon Street, Randwick, New South Wales. I couldn't help but notice as well that the letter of the month came from a certain Eric Harper in Waratah, New South Wales. Now, I know an Eric Harper who collects G.I. Joes in America, and I know an Eric Harper who collects G.I. Joes in Australia. I wonder if that's one of them. But hey, this is a very cool piece of Australian G.I. Joe history. And I reckon I might have to go looking for the other editions. What do you think? While we're talking about comics, let's talk about comic digests, shall we? And these come up fairly regularly around the traps, so you might have seen them before, and I apologise if you have, but I am very proud to say that I've collected a fair stack of these little guys. Here they are here. So these are the G.I. Joe Comics Magazine's digests. They're about as big as my hand, as you can see here, and I have about 10 different issues. There was, I think, 13 in total, so there's a couple that I am missing, but what these were is they were a collection of a few issues of the comics produced in this handy pocket size just for kids. So I've got issue 1 here, which covers the first few issues of the original run, and obviously features that very iconic issue 1 cover. I have issue 2 here as well. I have issue 3, which I think this cover comes from issue 7 of the original run. I have issue number 4. I also have issue 5. That's a great cover, that one there. I have issue 6, issue 7, another iconic cover, but there is no cover more iconic than the silent issue, so that cover was used for issue 8 of these digests, which is very cool. And I have issue 9 and issue 12, so I'm missing 10, 11 and 13, I think. So the hunt continues for those bits and pieces, but in the meantime I am only too happy to enjoy what I have here. The next item I want to show you is rather large, so it might not actually fit in camera, but this was another gift from a fellow G.I. Joe collector. His name is Mark. He is a legend. I catch up with him quite frequently. He gave me this G.I. Joe duffel bag, which is just extraordinary. And I'm, again, not brave enough to use it because, look, it's close to 40 years old, just like most of the other bits and pieces that I have shown you today, but very cool. Can you imagine being a little kid and going to a sleepover with your G.I. Joe duffel bag? That is an amazing piece, and it is one that I will treasure forever. That's my G.I. Joe duffel bag. Righto, so the last item I wanted to show you is this. It is the Milton Bradley G.I. Joe board game. Live the adventure, outfox the Cobras in this game of surprise attacks. The board game features this iconic artwork, which I'm sure you've seen before, but you might not have seen it on a board game box. Features this little kid with mainframe, low light, sci-fi, roadblocks up there swinging into view. You've got Dial Tone, who's my favourite G.I. Joe. He was the first G.I. Joe I ever owned. We've also got Wetsuit here in his scuba gear, which is kind of funny. Low Light obviously charging in a battle, toting his sidearm, which is very interesting for Lifeline if you ask me. You also got Leatherneck, Beachhead by the looks, and General Hawk just leading the troops there. In the background you have, looks like a Viper, a Bat, maybe a Crimson Guard, and maybe some Cobra troopers up there, but this is very, very cool. It was designed for players age 6 to 10 and was about battling the Cobras and being the first to win 6 badges of honor. And look, the good thing about this copy of the board game is that the contents inside are relatively complete, which is a bit of a shame because it means the kids who owned it didn't play with it much, but obviously great for YouTube some 40 odd years later. And I'm going to show you what's inside right now. So we'll pop the lid off of the box, and what you see inside is the red game board, which is folded in two. I'm going to open this up and I'm going to show you the magnificent artwork on it right now. But before I do just want to apologize. There might be a little bit of glare from my ring light. We'll try to avoid that as much as possible. But when you open it up, here it is here, and it's upside down, of course, but you are confronted with the imagery of General Hawk in the center of the game board with the G.I. Joe and Cobra logo. And around the outside are a number of iconic G.I. Joe characters. So you've got Battle Armor Cobra Commander there, Gung Ho in his Marine dress. You've got the iconic Viper, Storm Shadow, Crocmaster, and Fiona. You have Falcon, Zorana, Dr. Mindbender, the Crimson Guards there, very popular Outback, Crystal Ball, and then rounding it out with the Techno Viper, Big Boa, Chuckles, Baroness, and of course the Bat. But that board is so colourful, it is so attractive, and I can't believe I haven't used it as a backdrop for one of my videos, so I might have to do that at some point. Stay tuned to my channel. Inside, you have a number of game pieces which consisted mainly of pop-out cardboard pieces, and as you can see, a lot of the pieces have been popped out of this cardboard setup. You have some challenge cards here that obviously tell the G.I. Joe what to do as he's making his way around the board. And you have these medals, which are the aim of the game, to collect as many of these as possible. If I just pull this out here, you'll see that there's a number of other little game tokens inside there. They're like this, which are an interesting sort of design. A lot more of those medals, as you can see. But the main game piece was obviously Falcon. So you'd pop this out, fold it in half, and there's this little white plastic standee that you can use to obviously stand the Falcon game piece up, which is very cool. Just pack this up because I want to show you the back of the box, because on the back of the box is the instructions for the game itself. So I'll just put it all away, and you'll see here the back there is a full rundown of the instructions, which I haven't taken the time to read, but as you can see, the first player to place all 6 of his badges on the game board wins the game. Copyright 1986 by Milton Bradley Co. All rights reserved. But that is a very cool piece with some very cool artwork, and I hope you enjoyed that. That's just about all I've got time for today. Which one of these pieces was your favorite? Do you have any crazy G.I. Joe memorabilia in your collection that we haven't seen before? Feel free to tell us about it in the comments below. And while you're there, you might also like to hit that like button or subscribe to my channel if that's your thing. The numbers don't mean a great deal to me, but they certainly keep me motivated to keep bringing out videos just like this one. To everyone who is already a subscriber, I thank you for coming back to the channel. I do appreciate you from the bottom of my heart. And I also appreciate my members who send me $1.50 a month because they are some of the most generous people in the world. They are on screen right now. I appreciate every single one of them. They're all YouTube content creators themselves, so feel free to check out some of their stuff after you've finished watching my video, which is very, very shortly. In fact, it might just be now. I'll see you next time. Yo, Joe.